What historical event 100% sounds like a time traveler went back in time to alter history? The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Somebody throws a grenade at his car, and it blows up behind him. That's the first incident of time travel, stopping the assassination. Later, as he goes back, the driver realizes that he's on the same route where the grenade was thrown, and they try to turn around. The whole procession of cars stalls, and a guy who just happened to be sitting there goes over and shoots him. That's the second time traveler, fixing what the first had done, since the whole thing led off World War I, and led to the rise of Hitler, and then World War II. I kind of wonder what Ferdinand would have started if he hadn't been killed. It must have been pretty bad for them to send a second time traveler to put Nazi Germany back into the timeline. The Russian writer Fyodor Dostoevsky was sentenced to death by firing squad, and just as they were preparing the groups to be shot, a messenger came with a letter from the Tsar forgiving them, and the sentence was changed to prison labor. He later went on to write some of the most influential novels of all time. There have been at least 40 attempts to kill Hitler after he had risen to power. Sometimes they failed because the assailant couldn't get close enough. At least that's what they said afterwards. But a lot of them failed because of reasons that seem plausible if it happens once, but begin to smell fishy when you look at all of them. Elsa's bomb went off as planned, but Hitler, who loved to hold speeches, had finished early that day. Trescow's bomb failed because at first he, as a high-ranking officer of the Wehrmacht, couldn't get his hands on anything that goes boom for months, and when he finally had some, the bomb didn't explode. Talk about German efficiency. Stauffenberg could have just shot the bastard. His attempt was part of a general upheaval after all, so his chances to survive that day would have been not that bad. But he planted a bomb because that went so well the last times, and so on. We will never know why, but somebody believed, or even knew, that a premature death of Hitler would have been even worse for the world than what we got. Or it was a wereaboo who wanted to see a tiger second. Who knows? I would say there is significant evidence Fidel Castro. Every single assassination attempt failed, sometimes because of wildly miscellaneous circumstances, including a sabotage diving suit that somehow got miraculously switched with someone else, who ended up drowning in his place. Dude holds the world record for over 600 attempts, I believe. Not really an event, but more of a couple of subtle, though significant, influences. Eli Whitney, the guy who invented the cotton gin, helped cement cotton as a major cash crop, which drove even further demand for slaves. He, infamously, made no money off the development, as it was a simple and easily copied machine, but cotton helped drive the economic growth of the South. Frustrated, he eventually abandoned efforts to profit off it and went into the industrial world, where he was a small contributor to the development of higher precision machining and design, particularly for firearms. This in turn helped drive the growth of industry in the North, which was a major factor in giving the North the might and material to defeat the South. Eli Whitney inadvertently helped start and end the Civil War decades before it happened. What time traveler was giving that guy advice and pulling strings around him? On Christopher Columbus's first voyage, there are reports of strange lights following them as they approach land. I think these are time tourists going back to watch it all happen. Just whoever has been working in the Simpsons writer's room. I read a theory somewhere that this has essentially happened because The Simpsons has had 706 episodes as of today, and with that many episodes multiplied by the fact that each episode usually has at least 2 plots running, that's over 1400 different storylines. With the style of their show being satirical, it's just bound that they were going to predict some things along the way. But yeah, employing a time traveler on the writing team probably helps too. Isaac Brock's almost single-handed defense of Upper Canada from the US invasion in the War of 1812. You have a garrison of a few hundred British soldiers, the ones not good enough for the Napoleonic War, withdraw to Halifax and try to hold the Maritimes. F that. Okay natives, we don't like each other very much, but we are agreed the Americans are worse, right? Let's fight together. Hey farmers, you fled the revolution. They're coming to get you. Here's some guns, let's fight back. Forms an army in a matter of weeks out of nothing. Very well, Brock. You're outnumbered 3:1 on any given front and 10:1 in total. And you have to conquer Fort Detroit, which is entrenched, otherwise your southwestern flank will be open to counterattack. I'll write them a letter about how the natives with me will kill them horribly if the fort falls, and proceeds to march in a circle all night around the fort to build a sense of a larger force and let the fear settle in. Fort Detroit surrenders without a shot. Okay, nice try, Brock. But now Niagara is about to be invaded, and you're 500 kilometers away. I better canoe up Lake Erie really effing fast. And he effing does it. Too late, Brock. They've crossed the river at the northern end and they have the high ground. F that. Follow me, boys. Charges up the hill at the head of the column and rallies his untrained militia to force them off the ledge. He dies to a goddamn cannonball blast straight to the chest. But the invasion is halted. Canada doesn't exist today, if not for a balls-to-the-walls British general in 1812 who in the span of 3 months single-handedly raises an army, defends 750 km plus of warfront, and cements 2 victories over forces that outnumbered him 3:1 to 5:1. Julian the Apostate, a Roman emperor from the 4th century that tried to reverse back from Christianity to paganism, which is exactly what a time traveler Roman weebo would do. Also, there is the famous incident of his death, which was caused by a spear injury in a battle, which he took because he forgot to put on his breastplate before the battle started. Something clearly done by a time traveler who is not familiar with the world around him / a time traveler trying to conceal his journey back to his own time. Nothing can convince me that he was not. I'm almost certain Gemistus Pletho, 1355 to 1454, was a time traveler. Never heard of the man. Hear me out. He lived in the last decades of the dying Byzantine Empire, besieged by the rising Turks and the merchants of Venice alike. In a time when most clung to the Bible, he advocated for a return to the pagan gods of antiquity, Zeus, Hades, Poseidon, etc. While he believed that monks were wasting everyone's time, he was an important emissary to Italy to end the centuries-long schism between Orthodox and Catholic Christians. While he was there, he kickstarted the Renaissance by reintroducing Plato to the West, who had been virtually unknown for a millennium, and convinced Cosimo de' Medici to found the Platonic Academy. He also tried to introduce reforms that would have transformed Byzantium, which still held on to the claim to be the sole heir of the Roman Empire, into a Greek nation-state. He proposed a new constitution of strongly centralized monarchy advised by a small body of middle-class educated men. The army must be composed only of professional native Greek soldiers, who would be supported by the taxpayers, or helots who would be exempt from military service. Land was to be publicly owned, and a third of all produce given to the state fund. Incentives would be given for cultivating virgin land. Trade would be regulated, and the use of coinage limited. Barter instead being encouraged. Locally available products would be supported over imports. Mutilation as a punishment would be abolished, and chain gangs introduced. Source Wikipedia. His biography reads like a 21th century person getting thrown into the chaotic 15th century and trying to somehow introduce modernity. That he was ignored by the emperor and largely failed supports my long-held belief that most of us would be pretty useless political advisors if we were to time travel. The commando raid on the Norsk Hydro heavy water plant in Hardanger, Norway during World War II. The Norwegian commandos parachuted in during one of the worst blizzards on record, along with hundreds of pounds of explosives, and had to trek through the Norwegian wilderness for 15 days before they found a hunting cabin. The English commandos who were supposed to link up with got shot down, and the only reason they were able to make it to the cabin was that they found one of the commandos' sled, which he had lost as a child. After that they had to hole up in the hunting cabin for months, waiting out the weather. They survived on moss until, on Christmas morning, one of the men managed to shoot a deer. They went on to destroy the heavy water plant as well as sink the ship carrying what heavy water had been produced, effectively ending any chance Nazi Germany had of developing atomic weapons. The story is even crazier and less plausible than I've described, but I'm on mobile, so I've left some things out.